that leads us to our panel discussion. So the moderator of our panel is Vanessa Briand. She is at Zippo. She's the head of our manufacturing supply. She was working at GSK for 16 years and then went over to Haleon when they split. And in those companies, she was in charge of digital solutions, senior quality director. And what that means is that she was bringing the business insights into the manufacturing quality. And at Zippo, she's helping us to identify where we can bring more value to our clients in the manufacturing space. Hence one of the reasons we're even here today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Vanessa. She's going to be talking on our panel, Digital Transformation in Manufacturing. Are we ready for AI? Keeping with the AI theme. So thanks, Vanessa.
Right. So hi, everyone. I'm a bit blinded there. So before I bring everyone on stage, I just wanted to give you some context on why we decided to go for this topic of discussion, other than that it's been a theme all the way through. So I don't know about you, but you want me to, yeah, thank you. So I don't know about you, but there is no one day where I don't hear about or read about AI, right? So today is a very good example. At work, talk about AI. But also, I just read some news this morning as there was yesterday and Monday, the AI Action Summit in Paris, for example, so in the news. But I'm sure at home you also have those discussions, if not with the kids, where ChatGPT and how this is being utilized and at universities or at school. So it's a buzzword, right? AI is there, it's a fact. So my reflection was, okay, but how much is this in use and how does it apply to manufacturing? Is it really happening and is it delivering? So looking into that, well, in the value chain for life science, which I come from, AI is there, but it's kind of the main area is more where it delivers is really more in supply through supply predictability or customer visibility. But if you look into manufacturing, well, the AI adoption is quite low. So why that? And I think this is why I wanted a bit of a discussion with a few experts in their own areas, different type of manufacturing activities as well. So I'll bring them up, and I guess you will be given some mics as well. So in order on the slides, quite of a crowded team there. So let me just bring that here. So I'll start with, if you don't mind, by the ladies first. So Jocelyn, she's a Senior Director of Quality and Regulatory Biospecimen Solutions at Precision for Medicine. She oversees the quality management system, compliance and regulatory affairs for Biospecimen Solutions Division, which provides customized biospecimen collection, processing and analysis services for clinical trials and research projects. She has more than 14 years of experience in quality and regulatory management in the medical and biotech sectors, with a Master of Science in Regulatory Affairs from Northeastern University. And I come myself from quality. When I heard you and discussed that with you, I was quite impressed to hear that she also decided at some point to go and develop. To be a developer and a solution architect with L7. So thanks for being here and represent a bit the business voice. Then we have Jeffrey Trillinger, who is a delivery manager, IT Global Lab Automation for Catalent Pharma Solutions. He has 20 years plus information technology experience with a background in scientific applications, IT quality, and computer systems validation. He has an extensive experience in pharma industry through Cardinal Health and Catalan Pharma, and with a focus on laboratory informatics, system design, and large implementations. So our next speaker and guest is Jinpeng. So Jinpeng has a background and expertise in both scientific research and IT, 20 years plus experience in planning, developing, and implementing IT solutions in the laboratory to improve the efficiency and compliance. He's been leading LIMS and ELN development and implementations, support lab applications, and so many, I won't name them all. Developed and supported applications also for quality and manufacturing. Today, he is the LIMS program lead in Syngenta, which you joined quite recently, less than a year ago. And before that, he's been working in Altria, tobacco company, Moderna, Foundation Medicine, Biogen, and Boehringer Ingelheim. So you've been moving from support and validation of LIMS to implementation and integrations of solutions, both in R&D and manufacturing. Quite fun. And last but not least, Jeff. So he has 24 years of experience in the industry, first at Novo Nordisk and 70 years at KBI Biopharma, CDMO company. His time at KBI has covered their growth from a 40-person company at one site to 2,000 employees across 6 sites. Currently, he is the director of technical products, which includes their lab informatics systems, such as LIMS and ELN. Previously, he has been heavily involved in their manufacturing systems and oversaw the IT deployment for the build of their commercial manufacturing sites at Patriot Park. And this is it. It took me quite a while to present everyone, but I think it's important to see that we here have quite of a rich variety of profiles, which should make the conversation quite interesting. So in terms of questions, let's start by quite of a generic one. So I would like to, based on your various experiences, different companies, different sizes, could you tell me where your organizations currently stand in its digital transformation journey, and what are the most significant digital initiatives you've been implementing or planning to? So let's start with Jeff.
First. So KBI has about 4 years ago started a digital transformation led by our parent company, ASR. Can you hear me? Yeah. So we looked at various areas where we thought digital transformation could make a significant impact in our work. And KBI, by the way, is a CDMO. We work with lots of different clients to bring their drugs to market. And where we thought could be the biggest impact, I guess, as far as the initiative goes, is getting data from us to the client. So the major initiative for us has been a project called Program View, where clients have an online portal that they can log into. We upload data directly to the system from our lab informatics systems and even some process control systems, and mainly process development right now, so that the client has direct access to data summaries. We were spending a lot of time in client meetings, putting together presentations for data summaries on how bioreactor runs were going and studies are occurring, and all that data gets uploaded. And when they want to have a meeting, they pull up Program View, and all that data is right there. So it's been a big help there. Like I said, we started in process development mainly because there's no GMP impact. And now the next step will, of course, be the manufacturing and GMP part of Program View.
Okay. And Jinpeng, then on your side, and Syngenta obviously is more recent, but you can maybe bring the insights from the previous companies as well.
Sure. Syngenta is an agriculture company. I do a lot of biotech research from GM, GE, gene modification, gene editing, to increase yields, crops, working for farmers, also some crop protection. I joined recently. They did implement the ELN benchling not very long ago. But there's many challenges. There are several labs, and we are trying to implement the LIMS solution, LabVantage. So I'm leading the implementation of LabVantage across multiple labs, multiple sites. They do have some legacy LIMS system, Clarity, some of them Excel-based. There's a lot of challenges. We heard some of the good talks before, and some of the challenges with culture, like people using paper forms for years or decades. It's very difficult to change.
And if I just continue in that kind of spirit, then, so how long does it take to get to the full implementation then?
Interesting, like biopharma, I see many companies already use the LIMS, ELN, LES, those digitization in the labs, but many industries still it's not there yet. So like the companies I was work with, Altair and Syngenta, I'm still using paper forms, Excels, calculation. So it's a long journey.
It's still a journey, so still paper around. Okay. So if I slightly change or kind of add an element in the question, so in that digital transformation, what was the expectation in terms of, the decision of implementing or doing the specific digital transformation of your organization? What were the main drivers for that change or implementation, and was it successful? And did you manage to measure the value that was expected? So I'll start with you, Jocelyn.
Thank you.
No, he's not Skip.
So most of the digital transformation really slow. Much like Jim Peng had said, everybody uses paper. They love their paper. It's like their comfort blanket. They really don't want to leave it. So many times we're looking at the drivers, and it's finance. It's not operations. It's not quality. Nobody really. I'm fine with paper and quality. Sure, fine. Hand me a piece of paper. But it's finance because they want to see that granular level. How much are we spending on this product? How much loss do we have? What's actually coming in and going out? Where is all of my money going? And because finance is driving it, a lot of times the quality aspect gets lost. It's I just need to know the ones and zeros. Just give me my dollar amount. I'm like, but I need all of this extra information. Much if anybody has looked at ISO regulations, it's a heck of a lot of information that I need to keep track of, but it's all of this extra stuff. And then once the operators start getting into it, they're like, oh, wait, but I wanted this, I wanted this, I wanted this, I wanted this, I wanted this. So many times that digital transformation is over budget, over time, over work, and nobody sees an end to it because that scope at the front end was never actually performed correctly because it's done by the dollars, the ones and zeros by finance. So the cost of transformation when done correctly is enormous because you have better throughput, you have better compliance, you have an increased cost of good quality. But when the wrong scope is being applied to that, you're never going to make any progress.
Interesting. Thanks for that insight. So what do you think, Geoffrey, about that?
We are also a CDMO cattle. So, and that we're not at the So we come at it with a slightly different perspective. People who are first party. We are dealing with the expectations of all of our customers, many of whom have their own special needs and expectations. So for us, we came at the importance of transformation as a way within cattle for us to simplify things for our laboratory and facilitate sharing within our team, because we saw that as a way to eventually improve presentation to customers and things like that. So it is a challenge, and the quality aspect is I come at it from the IT standpoint, although I did spend a bunch of time in the laboratory. And it is very easy if you don't involve proper stakeholders, if you don't involve the full scope of what your expectations are, to plan a targeted item that doesn't solve a problem for it. I think we heard some of those talks earlier. If you are not actually solving a problem, then nobody's going to use it. Money, better place.
Yeah, that's correct. And I've seen some data that was explaining that, in fact, in the past, I mean, digital transformation is not new, right? It's been happening for decades. Maybe digital transformation is not what happened. It was kind of more putting some digital solutions on the process without really changing or transforming that. So I think now we are realizing that transformation has to happen, meaning really be clear on what needs to be tackled for express that, and to get to the value, as said, which is not easy, right? So 30%, I think, of the initiatives that were in the past succeeded, which is not high, right? So now I'm going to the kind of point of the conversation, which is AI. So are we ready for AI? Now that we have set the scene a bit. So why do you think that AI then is not that much adopted yet in manufacturing space? So I think we opened a bit the floor for that, but I'm keen to hear your views on that. And also if you can share any of your own experience of maybe having seen that in practice and maybe delivering or not. So who wants to start?
I'll say that you didn't want to hear from me. I think part of the reason that we haven't seen an immediate uptake in laboratory is that we work in a very conservative industry, and although it seems very cool, it really has not been going on that long. And I think the level of comfort is just not there yet for things that to a lot of people seem just like a black box, right? Like you just feed it data and then you get answers. And we come from an industry where there is an expectation that you can actually map the path between the question and the answer. And that is a challenging problem to solve.
How do you validate that black box?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Validation, quality, they want to see those calculations and verify that those calculations are correct, and you don't have those anymore.
Every time.
Yeah.
Well, it goes to say, with the digital transformation, the same problem with AI is the same problem that we would have with transforming our data. We have crap data. I hate to tell you guys, we all have crap data. Crap in is crap out. And if we put crap in our AI, that's all we're going to get. So it's the upfront effort to clean the data, to actually scrub it to meaningful anything. So that way, when we put it into AI, it means something back out. Much like looking at our GDPs. Do they know that the scratch mark actually means that we're not using? Is the GDP actually correct? And can the AI actually, detect, hey, you actually did this correct, you didn't do it correct, and how much is that coming back? Perfect.
And with the
We will use our AI to determine if our data is crap or not.
There we go.
And then,
Why not? Could be a use.
yeah.
So it's a perfect kind of linkage to my next question around, okay, so AI obviously can only work if we have the good data, right? At least it's one of the elements. So what are we doing about data? So are we mature in the data space in the manufacturing area? And so question is, for each of you in your areas and in your specific companies, what is being done on data? Are you seeing initiatives? Is it being structured? We've seen a presentation today talking a bit about that, but I would love to hear from you if you feel like it's being tackled the right way and if you would suggest different approaches. Jeff, or no, Jinpeng.
Yeah, I think data sharing is a challenge. When we implement the LIMS for labs, whether QC or R&D or TD, it sounds like it's just a data island. So I see many companies now is going to send data to like Power BI or Redshift or Snowflake or whatever, do some data analytics, then to be published to a whole enterprise use. But how to connect is still a challenge. Like we did some projects like between QC and TD, it was a disaster. Because they have different business rules, different regulation, and even the units are different. It's a lot of challenge. So how to, unify the data to be open to the whole company. I think that's something industry need to look at it. One thing in terms of AI, I know many products like BioVia and LabVantage all have this AI capability, but I don't think the value is fully implemented. It's like, what do you do with the data? Except some complex calculation, not much value if we don't have the whole infrastructure built.
Right, thanks for that. Jeff, you want to add anything?
CDMO complicates things because then you have the question of who owns the data, right? If I, want an AI that's going to analyze an SEC or something, I've got SECs from 100 different products across 70 different clients. Can I use all those to build my model? They may not like that too much. I don't know. But yeah, and then even with them sides, like you're saying, we've got some that are still using paper batch records. We got some that are on electronic batch records now. Some people are using ELN, some people aren't. Leveling all that out first and getting everybody to a certain level of capability, that you just have to do that first. And then global harmonization is a big piece of it. And that just drives you crazy because everybody wants to do it the way they've always done it. You're absolutely right.
So are you seeing, so how is it being tackled at your levels then? So are you having, is data a part of the strategy of the company? Or is it just being discussed? Yeah, it's a problem, but are you really seeing a structure around that happening now?
That's why I see Snowflake and Databricks is getting very, very popular now. Have like this kind of a data lake, data warehouse. It's become really an asset and be used by the company-wide.
Right, so that's from a solution or technology perspective, and then from a business.
So data is always the output. It's never the focus. At least I'm focused. I get to look at it all day, every day, and say, no, it is my. Oh, they're switching him out. So what they try to do is lab by lab, break down the process and come up with a singular harmonized solution. So the lab that we have here in Winston-Salem, there is a component that is harmonized with Houston, that's harmonized with Royston, and trying to harmonize that one specific process across the board and then say, yep, that's the data that we want out of it. So we're going to make this solution, and that's what we're going to focus on, not what's actually coming out the board, not what we're actually going to try to drive to our clients and drive to our physicians, but it's okay, well, how can we get this harmonized point and process across? And then we'll figure all the rest out when we get done. So that's been the frustration. I'm like, I care about the back end because that's what my regulators are looking at. They want to make sure that my reports have all the correct data fields, have all the correct information. You guys are focusing on whether or not we're all labeling the slide the same way. So it's very hard when your company is focused on the process and the harmonization that way rather than the harmonization of the output and fixing from that end forward or back.
So do you think then that, so from a technology perspective, I feel like there is some kind of structured tractions. It's kind of tools are getting there in terms of both structuring the data, methodology exists, but then do we have the capability out there? So are the skills, both in the business and in the tech teams, there and ready to support and make that transformation happen at the core? Difficult question.
I would say it goes back to what you said. I think you said it earlier, that we need to fix the problem in academia before we fix the problem in pharma. I think that it goes back to that, where if we get people that are used to technology, are used to using products that make life easier, you have better champions when you bring them into the pharma space. If you have people that are, I love my paper, I love my notebook, it's really hard to get them on board with, no, give me your notebook, you're going to put it here now. And giving up the fluidity of being able to write something down and scratch it out and write something else and actually having a structure to that's, yeah, I know, right?
People love their structure.
Moving into that space, if you have people that are used to using technology in that way, you're going to find a champion versus somebody that really just loves their paper and loves their notebooks and they don't want to give up their pen.
But obviously that will take some time to get there, right? So what are we doing in between? So in terms of kind of bridging the gap, and are you having initiatives in your companies in terms of trying to upskill or create awareness? And I'm not just talking about the analysts, by the way, because management, I guess, is also to be educated.
Yeah. Am I out? So we see the same problems, of course. At Excel, seconds, I really love that. So, within our ELN lab, or now we're training people become developers, essentially, right? Not IT people, some of the scientists, the research associates, to help build that. Because right now, we're still at the level where it's the visionaries who want to take this on, right? First, they're just doing this day-to-day work, is happy doing what they're doing. So you got to have those visionaries, people who are going to go out and help in the lab, kind of element everybody up, and provide them opportunities, I think, to train and learn new skills and get comfortable with the software and understand that it can do what they need to do, and it actually be a little bit easier once you get used to it and once you learn it. So kind of where we're at.
One of the things we've seen is maybe more traditionally, we had people who were very familiar with the app, and then there are people who are very familiar with the work. And that makes it more challenging, because the people who know what can be done with LabVantage or with whatever the tool is don't have a deep understanding of what needs to be done. And the people who use it in the laboratory, who would be using it in the laboratory, they know a lot about their process, they know a lot about their lovely paper and their Excel spreadsheets, but they don't have an understanding of what's possible. And so they can't actually think and ask for that next layer of stuff until they've started to use it. And so one of the things we've had to do from the more IT technical side is really begin to introduce those people to much more deeper understanding of what's being done in the laboratory, so that they can act as an interface there and work with their partners in the laboratory to to be able to realize what they need because they don't ask for it. They're happy with what they've got usually. And so they don't realize that there could be more. And that makes a real difficult challenge to get through.
We also need a champion because that person learning or attending the class or whatever, not generating revenue.
Yeah.
Right? You got to take that into account as well. You got to have people at the top level who are willing to let their people do that, take that, the many potential hit in order to make some more money.
They have to understand it's an investment.
Yep.
And if we don't make the investment, then we don't ever get over that.
So, in terms of stakeholders, they hear. I mean, the senior ones, the ones that are paying, right, putting the budget available for use. So they are hearing about AI a lot. So I'm sure you're hearing them saying, we need AI in our strategy, so put that in. So having heard that and knowing it's happening, have you, in your experience and today, are you seeing some AI implemented in your space? And I'm particularly interested in the QC area. But are you seeing this happening, or even some trials, or even trials that might not have delivered? Are you able to share anything around that?
Yeah, being a CRO, we try not to get into the AI and looking at our data, even QC data, because we don't technically own the data. It belongs to our client, so, and they are ready.
Back to the ownership of the data, right? Mm-hmm.
At most, it's going into our inventory system of, how many widgets, how many tubes, how many this, how many that do we have? So it's, I would say, at a very, very infant level, just to say, what's our forecasting for budget for, this month or this year, not really moving into our manufacturing space, which would be great if we could, but I think we're still trying to figure out how do we balance the data coming in versus how we can actually utilize AI for resource planning, for budgeting, for how often we're getting our PMs or how often things are going down, so stuff like that.
Right.
Those secondary places are places where it's easier to use, right? Because in the laboratory with real results, which may be customer phones, and they may, there's a lot of complexity there, and there's a lot of expectation around how you're going to use that data if you're making quality decisions with that data. And so that's a hard problem. And I think we have looked at places outside the results as well, where we can still hopefully provide benefit, but not the good, cool QC lab stuff or the manufacturing stuff.
Okay, I'm conscious I wanted to leave some time for questions or reactions. I think reactions could be also good, unless you have anything else to add. But I have a feeling that AI, are we ready? Doesn't seem not yet, definitely.
I'm not sure anybody is ready.
Yeah.
Hear whether.
But there is if I just summarize, there is an element of data kind of ownership, data readiness, but also business understanding and business readiness about expressing what they need to then be able to find the right solution, which could include AI, right? And capability as such, which will take some time to get there. So thank you for that. Any question, any reactions you would like to share?
So I have a comment regarding AI. Now, what is definitely contributing to the confusion and many misunderstandings about AI is that in the common sense that is known today, it's associated with generative large-scale language models, which is essentially a top-down approach. And that, of course, means building a huge model first and then trying to get some very specific answers from that. So I, as a practitioner, what I believe is underappreciated and it has been lost in this confusion is discriminative AI, which is applying these advanced models, for instance, convolutional neural networks, to real analytics problems, which is a bottom-up approach, which still has been lost in confusion and is underappreciated, but still has lots of potential for the problems that you guys are facing, such as pattern detection, outlier detection, consistency, and so on and so on.
And where do you think it's kind of lost in confusion now, or why is it not picked up?
Well, because everybody's so impressed with these large-scale models, ChatGPT, that they think that everything can be solved by asking simple language questions, which is not the case. You still need to work with data, but of course there's much more power using this discriminative approach than conventional statistics or conventional machine learning approaches. So this is still a very, very underutilized area.
Thanks, and a good comment.
I think that's why we still like our Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Well, just the pool of people who can develop
Yeah.
like that, and it's just not there. Right? It's growing, but the Python knowledgeable people, PyTorch, whatever it is, they're using it. Not as common to find those people who are really good at it. Like the part is. Now we actually do. You reminded me that we do have in our characterization program, we do have a discriminative AI choose to identify particulates in samples and using a visual model to identify particle size, color, things like that.
You did have any. You did.
Forgotten about. He's right. It is obscured and forgotten by these large language models.
Yeah, some other use case, like for example, for this GMP world, we're always running numerous tremendous test cases, test software. Actually, the AI can be used for writing test cases. I think that's a great tool, and is already in the market. Some of the product.
Correct.
Professionals from quality RT and R&D world, right? And AI, it's progressing really fast because timeliness to the market, right? And solving existing problems, many huge. Size doesn't matter, but biotechnology companies, they're using those methods. Our topic is AI. I don't want to deviate it, but cloud computing, right? Digital twins and some other features definitely help. So as IT department or quality department, how do you see the progress in that field? And if you observe some needs in the R&D section, what are those?
In cloud computing?
No, well, AI and in general, it's just like first AI and then digitalization, some other options. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a loaded question for 342. I didn't have enough coffee at the last break. No. One of the biggest issues that we're actually running into with AI, outside of whether we own the data or not, is a lot of how is the data actually input into the model to be able to use it correctly. One person could have modeled the data as X, and the other person interpreted it as Y. Or I have digital data, but I have a paper batch record, and I need to compare the two. But that would require me to scrub my paper batch record in order to compare and evaluate the data that I have. So it goes back to being that manual process. So when we're talking about, hey, let's digitalize all of our previous batch records, let's put all of that data in. I love that idea, BS. But that is where our biggest issues are going. We have this now new data. We have all of these new electronic batch records that we're making, but all of the previous stuff is still in paper. All of my method validation is still in paper. And how do I make that connection easily without just doing paper under glass? Because paper under glass is not going to get me to a true digitalization of my processes. It's just going to be, hey, I scanned it in, here's my PDF. And it's not going to help me do my work when I'm doing my batch record reviews. So.
And the second question is about the management. It's, there's supposed to be cost savings or efficiency gains, and it becomes very difficult to convince someone and spend all the time and budget, as you mentioned. How do you see the knowledge level of upper management? We don't want them to be AI experts, but at least you know what they can do with AI and how they can manage this throughout the organization.
Yeah, so the dollars and cents of this all. Finance sees it. They're like, yes, we want this. My company is owned by, for venture capital. So we have to go with whatever venture capital says. And they say, you aren't going to use this, you aren't going to use this, you aren't going to use this. So that negates half of what we could use our AI for. So now it's like, okay, well, what can we do? How can we go? Senior leadership, I would say, is kind of getting onto the whole like, hey, put it in the budget. Let's do it. Let's move forward without really having a grasp. And so then I have competing interests. I have VC saying, no, you can't do that. We're going to put all of these stopgaps. IT is fighting back saying, hey, but all of this could work. Let's do this. And I have my senior leadership going, hey, I really want to do this AI thing. We can really do this. So I think if there was more of a, can we validate? How are we going to validate? How are we going to actually qualify the data? How are we going to prove that it's actually doing something? I think then we might be able to shift that tide and be able to say, yes, senior leadership, look at all this money that we're saving, versus me sitting in a desk staring at paper records for 12 hours a day to try and get something out the door. So I think trying to find that balance of what can I get IT to agree to, what can I get VC to agree to, and actually showing if I have something that does this for me, you don't have to look at me for 12 hours sitting at that desk. I can actually use it to move on and actually do a improvement project rather than just getting these batches out the door. So long-winded, yeah.
We've been doing a lot of managing up because everybody's very excited about the potential. And everybody who reads the newspaper is very excited about potential. But they don't always understand the details. And so, although they're very excited and we want to leverage that, we also want to be realistic about what is possible and what are good ways to spend that money and time and what are fad ways. And some of that is just educating the people who are helping make those spending decisions and directional decisions so that we are focusing our effort on the most important thing.
So just to finish on that, and there is a last question then, just to complement on that before I let you talk there, I think I would recommend to utilize that AI buzz that the senior stakeholder are suddenly very excited about, to educate them. Yes, okay, but do you know that your data is crap? So that means you need to invest in cleaning that and structuring that, and then you'll get your AI. Because at the moment, they don't realize that data, they don't want to invest in data, no direct return of investment, so they don't want to. But if you utilize that route, there might be a chance. Last question.
Yes, so in thinking about the data and where the data is coming from, if you're talking about a new setup and you've got electronic laboratory notebooks, I'm curious about ELN. Is there enough flexibility in the over-the-counter tools that you can just say, okay, this is your data input mechanism? Does that help clean up the data, or do you need to actually build on top of the existing OTC capabilities to make it so that there's enough flexibility?
Most ELNs are pretty flexible, at least in how they're designed. You can configure it to however will fit your needs. The question that always ends up is quality comes in on the back end trying to sign out those laboratory notebooks, and you have one person that follows GDP to the letter, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can read every word you're writing. This is awesome. And then you have another person that comes in, and even though it's a text field, it's all kinds of doesn't make sense. It's all like gibberish. You have dates, you have times that don't match, they don't make sense. I mean, we're actually in the middle of pre-testing, and I sat there and was like, hey, you put the date in before, you have the date of resume before the date of halt. So the date work halted versus the date work resumed. I was like, whoa, those are backwards. Or did it happen on the same day and you just inverted the numbers? And they were like, no, we were just testing the system to see whether or not it flagged it. So you have those kinds of things of what does quality need from your ELN? What are your expectations? Because you can structure your ELN down to saying, yep, I don't care, just whatever goes in, goes in. Or you can have your ELN be kind of that bridge between paper and your actual true LIMS system to say, it's going to be semi-structured. We're going to have these fields. We're going to have maybe some data validation for this or that. But for this, it's going to be free text and it's going to be up to whoever's reviewing it. So it depends on what your user requirements are.
Right. Yep. Well, that's it then. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.